Alright, Schlockmeister fans, a movie also known as The Coming. It's a horror movie from the early 80s called Burned at the Stake. Let's check it out. Our film takes place in Salem, 1692. You know what that means. This guy's accused of witchery.
Oh, wait. I am innocent. I confess. Wonderful. Wonderful. Now God will permit thee to enter into his kingdom.
So the crushing of the rocks made this guy admit to being involved, which he wasn't. Then they killed him. That's Ann Putnam, Susan Swift. She's accusing people of being witches.
What creatures do you employ then?
Many creditors. I am falsely accused.
Ann Putnam, look at the accused, Sarah Good, and tell us whether she is the one who hath afflicted you.
You're gonna do it all right.
Your Honor, this be 1692.
The father of the accused.
The child's wretched mumming belongs in a clumsy backward puppetry.
She's bitten the arm!
What is it they say?
She's bitten the arm!
Fast forward to 1982.
What's there to be afraid of?
The ghosts of people who were executed for practicing witchcraft. It must have been a terrific time. Satan and wild nymphs running naked through the woods.
There's Susan Swift again. She's playing Lorene in modern times.
What happened? I hit my funny bone.
Back to 1692 again.
So be it. Go to thy devil.
Was a means to bring his flock
Sarah and her schoolmates are in a museum.
And he joined forces with Ann Putnam to drive the devil from Salem. Ann Putnam and Reverend Parris accomplished much during the first half of 1692. More than 250 people from all over New England had been imprisoned to stand trial for
Ann Putnam, thou art able here in Salem.
Suddenly, the father from 1692 is alive.
Fear of God.
What the hell? Poor guy seems completely lost in 1982, Salem. Lorene's still on her field trip, learning about Salem and witches and magic circles.
Not far from this graveyard is the place.
Guy Williams still hanging around. There goes the teacher. And Williams starts chasing Lorene. Of course, she looks just like Ann Putnam to him. Lorene starts talking in old world tongue.
Is this the time to receive the sacrament?
You ran away on the Lord's Day and scorned to receive it in the meeting house.
Back to 1692 again, Dorcas, the 4-year-old accused.
There is a deep red spot on her finger, Your Honor.
That's the Reverend, he's an asshole.
What is the significance, Reverend Parris? Obvious. A demon in the form of a snake comes to her and sucks her blood in exchange for favors.
That William Good guy, Dorcas's father, back in 1982, breaks into Lorraine's house because he's still trying to track her down. This is going to get him arrested. Then she's visited by, like, the ghost of the Reverend, I think.
The immortality of my soul. The seeds of my evil shall come and destroy them. You carry with you now the force of my will.
A reporter interviews William in jail.
I cannot fathom what time it is for thee. But for me, it is 1692. Sir?
You were found in a house this evening.
That is where she lives. Anne Popham, the girl who's testifying against my daughter.
This girl's name just happens to be Lorraine Graham, and living 300 years after your so-called daughter.
On the end of my bed.
Lorraine seems to be possessed by Ann Putnam's spirit.
I wanted to escape and tried to fly, but in an instant he appeared there toward me. I told Tituba.
Please go away.
The reporter wants to interview Lorraine's parents.
Call the police, do you?
What if he really is from 1692? What if it's true?
Do you believe it's possible?
No, but it's a hell of a story anyway. That's why I need to talk to your daughter.
On the 17th day of April in the year of our Lord, 1692, sentences the defendant to be put to death by burning no later than 4 days.
Now, in modern-day Salem, there is a witch, and her name is Merlina.
I know what you're feeling.
But she's not like an evil witch.
I sensed it too. Something evil.
She walks around Salem with her dog. The reporter is at the library trying to read up on Salem history, and something happens to him, although it's not exactly clear what, but he's clearly in pain. I think we're to believe he dies. I don't know from what, though. Merlina and a local cop.
Good boy.
I know where your dog was, but I'd like to know where you were last night around midnight.
Who was it that was killed last night?
Now, who said anything about anybody being killed?
Come on, Captain, don't be a fool.
Merlina knows something's going on.
A refugee from a costume party who keeps him zipping from 1692.
Captain, take me to him. This man from 1692, he's the key, I promise you.
Merlina visits Lorraine's mom.
You were expecting me. Yes, I was. There isn't much time left. Do you believe?
And my daughter is possessed.
Oh, she's not possessed. She's a reincarnate.
By the name of Anne Putnam, I give thee fair warning. Betray our cause, and I will bring down upon thee all the powers of heaven and hell.
She somehow convinces the sheriff to let William Good go into her custody. Plausible.
Guardsman, bring me William Good.
Meanwhile, back in the past again, Dorcas is about to be burned at the stake.
I was brave, Papa.
Now we know that the Reverend's the evil one.
It'll soon be over and thee will feel better.
No, I will not feel better.
Anne is having accuser's remorse.
She is not a witch!
The child Dorcas must die, witch or not.
Lorraine visits a grave in the cemetery. I think it's Dorcas's grave. Or it's Anne's, I don't know.
Please save us. Save us, Lord.
It's not a fantasy, it's for real. There's not a damn thing you can do. I'm going to try and help her to get back to 1692. I've got to try to help her to destroy the spirit of Reverend Paris.
I have no idea who the hell this guy even is. Anyway, all our players show up at the Salem Museum, and there's that magic circle. Marlena casts a spell.
I call to thee, infinite power of the universe. I call to thee.
And somehow in the past, Anne saved Dorcas. Later on, she repented and said she was sorry for everything that she had done, which actually is true. And this is how our movie ends.
Noreen, darling.
How the heck did she open those doors? I've been trying for an hour.
Noreen.
She's all right, I promise you. Better than she's ever been.
Alright, let's talk about this movie called Burned at the Stake. This is a movie I actually had a pre-recorded PAL VHS tape of under the title called The Coming. I'm not sure where I acquired it or why, probably eBay, but I had it. And later on I found out it was available on an American VHS tape under the title Burned at the Stake, which is where I got this from. This is not available on DVD. It's a homemade DVD-R I made, burned it, made some box art, blah, blah, blah. You know the drill, right? So anyway, stars Susan Swift. She was the young girl in the movie Audrey Rose, if you ever saw that one. And she is this, the first part of the film takes place in 1692. It's basically kind of like a retelling of the Salem witch trials, although there's a lot of historical inaccuracies in this. And there was a little girl who was put to death. A lot of people were put to death, actually, but in this case, we're focusing on this little girl named Dorcas, who was a real person in real life. I think she was a 4-year-old girl who was accused of being a witch, and in the movie, she was put to death. Now, we know in real life and in this movie, too, the accusers were full of shit, and they weren't really honest here. And Susan Swift plays that accuser. Now, we fast forward to 1982, when this movie came out, and Susan Swift is now... we find out later that she's a reincarnate of Ann Putnam, the woman from, or the girl from, who was the accuser, almost 300 years earlier. And strange things start happening. First of all, the father of Dorcas somehow gets zapped into modern times, and he's running around in 1982 Salem. The movie does take place in Salem, like I said. And Lorene is the girl, played by Susan Swift, in modern times. She starts to get kind of like possessed by this Ann Putnam girl from 300 years earlier. This guy, the father's running around looking for his daughter. He's really confused because, well, it's 300 years later. There's telephones and planes and cars all over the place. He ends up tracking down Lorene, who he thinks is Ann Putnam, but he eventually gets to her and he's like, "Oh, you're not her. I can tell you're not her. You're kind." But anyway, he gets thrown into jail because he actually broke into her house to see her. There's this modern witch named Merlina running around, and she somehow gets this guy out of jail. She says, he's the key. We got to find a way. Blah blah blah. It's just kind of a really convoluted thing here. So eventually, she gets Lorene together with him, and there's some sort of time warp type thing going on. And somehow the girl back in 1692 is saved and gets to be with her father, and that's kind of how the movie ends. I don't know. I got a little confusing, and I couldn't quite tell what the hell was going on in this movie. Not a lot of star power in here. Susan Swift is probably the biggest star, and Tisha Sterling, I think, was the mother in this movie. No nudity, not a real violence, really. A few people died, but the movie is allegedly rated R according to IMDb, but I don't see any reason why. I don't even think there was any language in it. No nudity, no bloodletting, really. I mean, some people were burned at the stake, of course, but And the movie kind of looks like a made-for-television movie. It just has that feel to it with the opening credits and the closing credits. Just kind of an odd thing. But anyway, that's the movie. It's called Burned at the Stake. It's an early 80s horror movie that a lot of you may have never even heard of. I don't know. But anyway, check it out. Let me know if you've ever heard of this film. Leave some comments down below and let me know what you think about it. Burned at the Stake. The terror of Salem 1692 has come to the present. Watch it. Bye.